So it was supposed to be a short week, 1.5 days less than a regular week, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, but then came the drama. We had two CEOs that got fired this week. Only one came back. We have car companies that are reducing their spend. We have a lot of very interesting news, and even a director that got $45 million and tried to play genius with options and lost most of his money. Are you ready for a weekly summary? Let's go. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome, and if you're let's call it a persistent viewer, thank you very much for your loyalty. I'm Micha Stocks from our channel Stock Talk with Micha Stocks, where we talk about stocks. We're 2.3K subscribers, and if you're new, it would be really great if you can subscribe to the channel. Let's directly dive in. Major averages. Dow Jones up another 1.29%, S&P up almost 1%, Nasdaq up 0.67%, and Russell up 0.5%. This brings them to a level where they become overbought. We're going to talk about that in a second, but look at the major indices. You can see that healthcare is up 1.6%, then XLP 1.4%, XLU, which is the utilities, up 0.95%, and on the flip side, XLK, technology down 0.5%. Why? Look at the Magnificent Seven. Not a good week for the Mag 7. Most of them on the red, except Amazon and Google, and also both of them are less than 0.5%, with NVIDIA leading by -5%. NVIDIA whopping earnings report, but a stock kind of giving back a bit. Very interesting what's going on with NVIDIA. On a Bitcoin side, Bitcoin climbed over 38 for the first time in a few months on Friday, and then gave back a bit. Maybe while you're seeing this video, it's again above 38. But right now it's having challenges around 38,000 before it has another leg up, if it's going to have that leg up. And if you're looking at the major averages, you can see that Russell, Nasdaq, and S&P are overbought, and the Dow Jones is currently extreme overbought. At the end of the video, we're going to talk about the S&P, of course, and doesn't make sense to maybe think of reducing some kind of exposure. And this is a good opportunity to remind everyone that everything and anything that you see on this video, it is not financial advice. It's only for entertainment and educational purposes. I hope you'll get educated from it. I don't know. Let's dive in. Let's continue with our summary. Fear and greed. We are now greedy. 68 usually means that we are due for a pullback. Just giving you a hint what I think is going to happen in the next few days. So this was the earnings calendar for last week. We thought it was going to be a calm week with NVIDIA reporting. That would be the major thing. But then came Sam Altman, got fired on Friday, back in business on Wednesday, when on November 22nd, when OpenAI declares his return after a huge soap opera saga of a new CEO and another new CEO and a board that still doesn't explain why they fired Sam Altman, and new board. You probably followed that on other channels, and if not, write me in the comments. Maybe I'll do a specific video just on that. During the last 24 hours, or 36 hours, we're getting more and more evidence of something happening in Chinese hospitals with kids and babies. There's a new phenomenon that no one knows. Of course, Chinese are saying, oh, it's nothing special. The World Health Organization is starting to look into that because no one wants the COVID to be back. So that's what's happening. I'll, of course, update you here on this channel. We talked about one CEO that got fired. This is the second one, not Mary Garland. Mary Garland is the one that's prosecuting Binance, and their CEO, CZ, was stepping down. The founder and the CEO of Binance is being fired and being sued for $4.3 billion on money laundering charges, where one of the charges is that he allowed the platform to be used for transactions with Hamas, also with Iran, Syria, and everything related to mainly the criminals and the bad people. FOMC minutes came out this week and basically didn't say anything that we didn't know. They're going to proceed carefully. Okay, that makes sense. They see that the situation currently remains restrictive. Of course, they haven't dropped the rates. They're still high. They are afraid that there will be another uptick in inflation. That's why they're not reducing rates. And also they said that if they see inflation ticking up, they're going to increase rates. Okay. Nothing new on that part. Bank of America, Savita Subramanian, upgrades her price target, or actually releases her price target for 2024, saying that at the end of 2024, the S&P might reach 5,000. This is about 10% from where we are today, 4,500 to 5,000. If we do 10% from now till the end of next year, that's amazing. I believe we're going to do more, but who knows. Netflix and the crazy story. In 2018, Netflix started negotiation with Carl Rinch. By 2020, Netflix spent $44 million on a show that he was supposed to produce. Well, apparently he got a bit greedy, and he asked for 11 million more money, which he took, and lost 6 million of it gambling. Where did he gamble? On Dogecoin. Yes, he was part of the meme frenzy. So if we thought that stimulus checks were the ones that created the meme frenzy, it was Netflix. Maybe that would be a series that he should produce. Think about that. India is trying to bring Tesla in, trying to lure them in by reducing the taxes. And if Tesla will be able to penetrate India, at least at the beginning, at the high end, and then creating that new factory with a 25K car, that would be a huge total addressable market that Tesla isn't tapped into. And currently, from the best of my knowledge, the electric cars in India are not that sophisticated as the Teslas are. So there might be very big demand for Tesla cars, but it needs to be, in the tariffs in India needs to be reduced in order for this to happen. General Motors, on the other hand, are having a bit of their problems. Let's start from this. They're not going to advertise on Super Bowl, which is pretty rare. They're pushing their next EV cars, which was expected, and the whole cruise unit is kind of in a shuffle. The CEO leaving, his co-founder is leaving. A big mess there. We're going to talk about Ford in a second. C3AI, ticker AI, is shedding employees. They're telling their staff that they need to start saving costs, meaning that probably they're seeing their revenue not growing as expected, and they're firing people. Short seller Jim Chanos, which has a hedge fund that practiced mainly shorting. They made a lot of money shorting Enron, and then had a new target in mind, Tesla. From 2008, where he managed $6 billion, he closed shop this week with only $200 million. Why? Because he lost most of it on shorting Tesla and getting a short squeeze that he didn't think of. And Citigroup is letting 10% of their employees, they're reducing their staff by 10%, trying to keep up with growth. Jeff Bezos is selling a lot of Amazon shares. He's unloading around $240 million worth of Amazon shares. And the interesting part is that it's not really impacting Amazon's stock price, which means that someone is accumulating all these stocks versus Tesla. If you remember, when Elon Musk sold a lot of shares, no one accumulated and the stock just fell. And Ford, which I mentioned I'm going to talk about, scales back their $3.5 billion battery plant. And as I mentioned often on these weekly summaries and on videos, it's very easy to come out with a presentation, to have a press conference, to say a lot of big words, a lot of buzzwords. But when push comes to shove, most of the former car companies, whether it's Ford, whether it's GM or Stellantis, are really in kind of a bit of a financial situation. Look at their debt. Their debt is piling up like crazy. They're not making money. They're not selling cars. A bit of a problem. That's everything that happened this week. Like I said, if there wasn't Sam Altman and CZ, it would even be a quieter week. But then, let's talk about next week. Next week, we are going to start with the fact that we are at greed position. This is CNN Fear and Greed Index. If we are in greed, it means that the market is waiting for something to happen. The major averages, as you saw, are currently between overbought and extreme overbought. Positioning is going to rule in the next 4 weeks. We're also going to have a few companies report. I would say interesting ones of them would be Zscaler, CrowdStrike, Snowflake, Salesforce, and even Alta, UiPath, and Dell. Those are the interesting ones. You might find other that are more interesting from your perspective. Economic calendar doesn't seem that interesting this week, but we will get an S&P 500. What you're seeing right now is Japanese candlesticks, of course, where you can see the movement during the day. I'll change it to a regular chart where you can see that we have lower highs, meaning that the highs are coming down. We are currently in a, let's call it a triangle or a wedge, and we are at the top of that trend line. Usually, we get resistance here, which means in a technical perspective that we might see a bit of a pullback. Combine that with a high fear and greed. Combine that with an overbought RSI. I wouldn't be surprised seeing the S&P 500 coming down to around the 4,300, maybe even a bit higher to 4,400, and starting to give back a bit. All that in the next week, week and a half, in order to expedite the year-end rally. That was our weekly summary. I hope you enjoyed it. It wasn't as long. We had a day and a half less, so that's good. Next week, full 5 days. Let's make some money, have fun, whatever you choose. I'm Micha Stocks. If you enjoyed, smash that like button, and I will see you next week on our next weekly summary. Till next time, bye-bye.